You're listening to the Quint's podcast.
We're back with the Aussie Challenge podcast, and day one of the third test between India and Australia ended with the hosts holding the advantage. The score stands at 166 for 2, and my guest Ayaz Memon is with us. Ayaz, day one does go to Australia?
Most certainly. I thought that Australia have recovered very smartly, thanks in some way, of course, to India not taking the catches that came their way. Two catches were dropped, both by Rishabh Pant, and he didn't actually have a very good day. But it's going to be uphill for India from here, because the pitch is playing easy, and two batsmen who looked out of form have come strongly back into form, which is Marnus, Labuschange and Steve Smith. And that will be a source of worry, because we had a truncated day's play today. Tomorrow, if you have a full day's play and Australia bat through the day, then India will be on the back foot.
I'm Menra Dorji.
And I'm Ayaz Memon.
And you're listening to the Aussie Challenge podcast on the Quint, powered by Farm Easy and Medibuddy.
Okay, I'm going to quickly take you through the scores. Paine won the toss and elected to bat first. Both teams handed out debut caps, with Navdeep Saini playing in place of injured Umesh Yadav, and Puckowski coming to open with David Warner. Yes, returning from his groin injury, previously lethal on this ground, lost his wicket in the first half hour of play, in fact, out to Siraj, caught in the slips, out on 5. Puckowski, though, got to his half century by the end of the second session. That was delayed a lot by rain. Finally, though, it was Saini who picked his wicket, LBW, on 62. Marnus, Labuschange and Steve Smith were at the crease at Stumps. Marnus on 67, Steve Smith on 31. Ayaz, rain aside, one player who impressed you today, maybe a certain man making his debut. All of Australia struggled with openers, and they finally seem to have found some answers.
Yes, I think Puckowski was very impressive. He's got flair, and he's also got a good temperament. He did get a life, but he made the most of it, and that's important from Australia's point of view. And the comparison with Joe Burns was so badly out of form in the first two tests was stark. Burns couldn't get the ball off the square, while Puckowski, albeit in maybe more batsman-friendly conditions, has just looked the part, and Australia actually missed him in the first couple of tests because he was slated to open the innings. But he's made a fine debut here, and I think this is something that will, which has given Australia the platform on which to build a big score. So, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of hard work for India tomorrow.
Okay, lots of talk around who would replace Umesh Yadav once he got injured. I mean, Natarajan's name was being mentioned, Shardul Thakur as well. But in the end, India have gone with Navdeep Saini. You think they've sort of made the right call?
Look, we have to go back and see that Navdeep Saini was in the test squad. Shardul Thakur was added to the squad after Mohammad Shami got injured, and Natarajan came in after Umesh Yadav got injured. So if you look at it, sequentially, you would imagine that Saini would get the nod because he was originally in the squad while the other two weren't. They haven't played any long-form cricket on this tour. Navdeep Saini has played. He may not have been very successful, but he was the guy who was included in the squad as the optional pace bowler in case some of the others fell ill, were not fit or out of form. So I think it's a logical move to bring in Saini.
Okay, another replacement sort of India did make in the last game actually was Rishabh Pant in place of Ridhiman Saha. And lots of people talking about, now what happens when you choose a wicketkeeper based on their batting skills is what sort of was showcased today with Rishabh Pant dropping quite a few catches.
Yes, and I think that's something that Pant will have to seriously look into, because if he wants to be the number one choice wicketkeeper batsman for India, then certainly his wicket-keeping skills have to improve. Both these catches were, the second one was a tad more difficult than the first, but both these were catchable, and to let go both within a span of a couple of overs is a setback, not just to the bowler but also to the team. It allows batsmen the reprieve. They start thanking their luck and building from there, which is exactly what happened. Puckowski benefited both times and went on to make a half century. If had he fallen at the catches been taken, then there would have been greater pressure on Labuschange and Smith, and maybe India could have finished with another wicket or two more. And that just completely alters the equation at the end of day one. Remember that Australia had won the toss, which was a big advantage on this pitch, because the last inning scores, the fourth inning scores at Sydney are, the average score is 168, which means it gets more and more difficult to bat as the match progresses. So if Australia run up a big score in the first innings, all the pressure will be on India when they bat fourth. So, missing catches at this stage of the match was a serious setback.
You did mention Sydney and the pitch. I just wanted to ask you this. A lot of talk around how Sydney is India's best chance of sort of being able to retain this trophy. You've, of course, followed many tours of India to Australia before. What exactly is it about the SCG, that makes it India's best chance to be able to, win another match in the series?
Well, I think that's actually, old thinking. I don't know if it's still valid because in the old days, India used to rely on the spin bowlers to win matches or at least compete hard. Now it's not exactly the same case because our fast bowlers are doing exceptionally well. The pitch in Sydney or the conditions in Sydney tend to support spin bowlers, especially from the second or third day or fourth day onwards. So that's why Nathan Lyon is tipped in this match to turn things around Australia's way more than the fast bowlers. I think it has to do with the soil more than anything else. But yes, with Ashwin in such good form and good support from Jadeja, India would fancy even, reaping the rewards of good spin bowling. But for that, they have to ensure that they are not chasing a humongous first innings total put up by Australia, because that could queer the pitch completely for India's aspirations.
Okay, we've seen Ashwin and, Steve Smith's battles in the middle. Everybody was looking forward to it. But today, Steve Smith has remained unbeaten on 31. What did you see of their little battle today in Sydney?
I thought this was a terrific battle. It's been a contest of the series for me so far. I know Bumrah has been exceptional and Siraj has bowled well, and the others have been very good in support. But if I have to pick a highlight of the series so far, it's been Smith versus Ashwin. And Ashwin with all the intricacies of spin bowling, the turn he gets, the flight, the lines he bowls, the lengths he bowls, and the way he's kind of made Smith, at least in the first two matches, virtually strokeless. Not just strokeless, but also fallible. Smith otherwise looked infallible, especially in Australian conditions, and also to an extent Labuschange. So both these high-scoring guys, run machines, one senior, one junior, Ashwin had them, kind of tied up completely. That pressure seems to be easing a bit, but you never know. Tomorrow's another day. I thought that today also, when Smith started, he came with the intent of, putting or regaining the psychological advantage which he had lost to Ashwin. To that extent, he's been successful, but this is an ongoing, fascinating battle.
As you said, tomorrow's another day, and let's see if Ashwin does manage to get that wicket tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us today, Ayaz.
Thank you, Mendra. Thank you so much.
And thank you all for listening to the Aussie Challenge podcast with Ayaz Memon on the Quint, powered by Farm Easy, India's largest online pharmacy, and MediBuddy.
Thanks for listening. Log on to the Quint's website and check out our other podcasts.